Warning: the Savage Nation contains adult language, adult content, psychological nudity. Listener discretion is advised. And now, America's most exciting radio talk show, The Savage Nation, home of borders, language, culture. And here he is, author of Liberalism is a Mental Disorder, Trump's War, and God, Faith, and Reason, Michael Savage.
Welcome to the Savage Nation, where the truth will be marching on. We're now living in a moment of tyranny and injustice, backed by the tech companies, backed by the government on the left, backed by forces we do not even know, where we risk losing a certain way of life that took centuries to be shaped amongst the Western peoples. As Churchill said, since the dawn of the Christian era, a certain way of life has slowly been shaping itself among the Western peoples, and certain standards of conduct and government have come to be esteemed. After many miseries and prolonged confusion, there arose into the broad light of day the conception of the right of the individual, his right to be consulted in the government of his country, his right to invoke the law even against the state itself. Independent courts of justice were created to affirm and enforce this hard-won custom. This was assured throughout the English-speaking world, and in France by the stern lessons of the Revolution. But today we are confronted by censorship. Censorship at this time not by the government, but by certain companies that are more powerful than any government in the history of the world. Why has the media censored Alex Jones while dropping the story about Dianne Feinstein and the spy who drove her and ran her office for 20 years? I ask these questions because this affects everyone listening to the show, left, right, and center. This is a war for the defense of freedom. As Churchill again, who I quote, said, the lights are going out. The lights are going out quite quickly. They went out in England a while ago. And I do not know how long I will have the liberty to express myself on this program. But while there is freedom for those of us who have the power of a mass audience, we must not waste this power. This power must mean something. We must come together and defend ourselves against the new tyrants. And so let's speak today in truth while the time remains. So what is the truth and what am I talking about? Well, today's show, as I said, is about free speech. As the only man in the American media who was banned in Britain, I know something about free speech. 2008, I woke up and turned on the Drudge Report, as I do most every morning, and I was shocked to find out I was not allowed to enter Great Britain. I couldn't believe it. And that began a long and torturous process of trying to understand how they could ban me for words I didn't even say. Well, many people commented at the time. Some today posing as conservatives and constitutionalists had the nerve to go on the radio and say I got what I deserved. And yet they pose as great harbingers of freedom, and you buy their bill of goods. But I'm not here to put anyone down. I'm here to try and awaken you to the danger we are all in. When I was banned in Britain, many people came to my defense, including those on the left, if you can believe it. On the back of my book, Banned in Britain, Beating the Liberal Blacklist, I have a quote from Boris Johnson. You know him, don't you? Does the name Boris Johnson ring a bell? He might be the next Prime Minister of England, I believe. Is that correct? At the time, he was a journalist for the London Telegraph. And what Boris Johnson said holds true today. He said, the ban against Savage makes us look so infantile, so pathetic. What are we, some sort of kindergarten that needs to be protected? against these dangerous American radio shows? Nancy Pelosi chimed in when I was banned in Britain. You want to hear what that tyrant said? She said, conservative radio is a huge threat and political advantage for Republicans, and we have to find a way to limit it. Did you know that? Did you know that as I speak, the same forces are trying to ban websites, talk radio, and now they have the power of Facebook, Twitter. Twitter actually let Alex talk, I believe. The other giants, who in many ways are the tyrants of today. Now, this conversation that I'm going to have with you today goes way beyond one program. It's all about the survival of free speech itself. You say, well, they're private companies. Facebook, amongst others, is run by Mark Zuckerberg. Brilliant guy, got a great company worldwide. He can do what he wants. Can he? Does a private company have unlimited powers of censorship? Has it ever been tested in court? It will be. Should a private company have more power than a government? After all, if Facebook and the other social giants were constrained by the same rules as public companies using the public airwaves, they would be forced to adhere to the FCC rules. They would not have an easy time of just banning someone they don't like. But they are not part of the public airwaves, are they? They are private companies. Now, I'd like to lecture Mark Zuckerberg. I wish I could sit down with him in a room and explain to him that he has the power right now that prime ministers of the past didn't have of great nations, and that he's abusing this power through his egomania and his narcissism and his quest for profits. Now, in a saner time, in a saner place, a government would step in when a company becomes too large and break that company up. You do know that there are antitrust laws in the U.S. Justice Code. You do know that. And I go back 100 or so years when Standard Oil was the dominant and only oil company in the United States of America. I've told you this for years. People have picked up on it, thank goodness. One oil company, one oil giant, built by the genius John D. Rockefeller. Well, what happened was they controlled the entire oil business. U.S. government stepped in and broke them up, forced them through an antitrust action to break Standard Oil up into smaller companies. And so 1,000 little Standard Oils were created. In some cases, they were just shell companies still owned by Rockefeller. But in other cases, they were new companies able to compete with the Standard Oil giant. Should the U.S. government step in and break up Facebook and make 1,000 Facebooks so there are 1,000 opinions and that hundreds of different companies will grow in the new soil when Facebook is broken up? Can they break up a private company? Is that what we want? You do know what I'm talking about, don't you? Do you think these private companies like Facebook have a right to ban whoever they want? Well, they are private, and they set the standards for what they would like to have on their platform. And their standards are usually extreme far left standards, which means no standards at all. For example, take the New York Times. We read last week that they hired a woman for their editorial board who said, I hate white men. Worse things than that. I hate police. And yet Sulzberger, who has no shame, put this person on his New York Times editorial board because she was a woman or is a woman and she's of Asian ancestry. He didn't ask, what are her opinions? How do they reflect upon the New York Times? It didn't matter to him. All that matters is that she was, quote, diverse, and it would look good to his left-wing shareholders. Well, it's all about free speech. How much governmental control should there be? You know I'm banned in England. We also know that a man named Tommy Robinson, the leader of Freedom in England, who was put in prison for reporting on a trial about Muslim murderers and for the things he said about Islam, he was just banned as well from one of the social giants. England was a nation that led the world in thoughts about the rights of man, gave us the Magna Carta, And now that the leftists have taken over England and they're being directed by Islamists who come from fascist backgrounds, they are turning England more and more into the country it never was supposed to be. And now here in America, many of you say, well, it's okay to ban Alex Jones on social media because I don't like Alex Jones. Well, when they came for Alex Jones, if you didn't lift your voice, who's going to be there when they come for you? I know some of the things Alex has said are offensive to many, and I don't agree with them. But I will tell you this, he's one of the few people in the media who has given me freedom of speech whenever I've wanted it. And he has a huge and loyal audience of people. They can't all be crazy, are they? Think everybody's crazy who listens to Alex Jones? So he would give me the airwaves, his internet airwaves. He has a huge, loyal audience. And I would talk about my books or things that matter to me. And he was one of the few people who opened the door to me. Now I wake up and find out he's suddenly the most hated banned broadcaster in the United States of America. So what should I do? Be like the others and turn my back on him? I said to myself this morning as I looked in the mirror and said, what am I? What am I if I turn my back on Alex Jones in his time of need? And what are the others who are afraid to have Alex Jones on their show? What does that tell you about them? I'll let you be the judge of what it tells you about the sad state of, quote, conservative talk in the United States of America today. You don't have to agree with a person to have them on. I'm not only banned in England, I'm banned on Fox News. I don't even know why. I think I know why, but I have no idea why. You would think, come on, Michael, you have numerous best-selling books. Why would they not want to have you on? Your audience is huge. I've had some of their hosts call me almost crying, saying, we'd love to have you on. But a certain individual who is power mad will not let us put you on Fox News. I said, all right, well, it's his loss, your loss. I don't know what to do. So this is not so much about Michael today. It's about freedom of speech today. And at the bottom of this hour, we're going to have the man of the hour, and that is Alex Jones, where we will talk about the treatment of minorities in the media. Oh, yes, we are minorities in the media. Did that occur to you that I, Michael Savage, am a minority in the media? In a sea of progressive left-wing fascism, in a sea of false conservatism that wraps itself in the flag while peddling you a false bill of goods, that I'm actually a minority? And while we are talking about freedom of speech, let us not forget the biggest story of yesterday, and you will see how it ties into freedom of speech and freedom of the press. Yesterday, it hit the news that Senator Dianne Feinstein of the Senate Intelligence Committee had a driver and office manager now for 20 years working right next to her who was a Chinese spy. She was told about this 5 years ago and said, oh my, I had no idea. I immediately dismissed him. Why is that story gone from the media? This is the greatest spying scandal of our lifetime. But to show you how we have lost freedom of the press and freedom of speech in this country, what should be the biggest story of our time is the spy who drove Feinstein, the spy who managed Feinstein's office, has been dropped by all major media. Why? So they ban Alex Jones for saying offensive things, and then they banish the story about the spy in the office of the woman who sat on the Senate Intelligence Committee for all these years, as though it has no meaning whatsoever. Now, before I go to my first break, because I could be eloquent now for the next 3 hours before even taking a breath, let me say this. Many of us don't know what the First Amendment means. England has no First Amendment. We have a First Amendment. And as Churchill famously said, or I think it was Churchill, the First Amendment was written in America to protect offensive speech, not polite speech. You don't need a First Amendment to protect polite speech, do you? What do you need that for? You don't need a First Amendment there. You need the First Amendment for one reason only, to protect offensive speech. Do you understand that? This is Michael Savage. The lights are going out.
Join the Savage Nation. Call now, 855-400-SAVAGE, 855-400-7282. Savage.
The Savage Nation is sponsored by Swiss America, the only company I trust with my financial future. Call 800-289-2646 or SwissAmerica.com. Have you ever taken your car in for an oil change, your mechanic finds something wrong, and bingo, surprise, you're hit with a huge repair bill? And what happens when you're not covered by the manufacturer's warranty? You're paying out of your own pocket to fix it, that's what. That's why I recommend extended vehicle protection from CarShield. If your car has 5,000 to 150,000 miles, CarShield can save you from paying for high repair bills. Replacing your engine or even a simple sensor can cost thousands. But when you're protected by CarShield, you can have your favorite mechanic or dealership fix your car. It's your choice. CarShield also provides 24/7 roadside assistance and a rental car while yours is being fixed for free. Get covered by the ultimate and extended vehicle protection. Get CarShield. How? Call 800-CAR-6100. 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 Mention code SAVAGE or visit carshield.com. Use code SAVAGE to save a big 10%. That's carshield.com or 800-CAR-6100. Code SAVAGE to save 10%. A deductible may apply. Remember what I said to you in the opening, which is a very important opening from my point of view anyway, and it's this. The First Amendment was written to protect unpopular, offensive speech. It was not written to protect polite speech. And our way of life, which took so long to evolve, and our way of freedom, which took so long to gain, and so many men died for these freedoms, that we could speak, write, read what we wanted. After all this death and all this misery, now we have tyrants arising who would banish us for not adhering to their conceptualization of what is right and what is wrong. It will throw away all of the evolution of Western civilization. How we have gone from Big Brother to Big Zuckerberg in one generation is a product of the cheapness of political office, where those in Congress, in so many cases, are no more than lobbyists at best, but lower than street prostitutes at worst, where you can buy their favors and their opinion for less money than you can buy a haircut in certain hotels. No, we're not going to throw this away. We're not going to let small men dictate to large men what they can read and what they can say. So today they're banning Alex Jones. In 2008, they banned Michael Savage. Somehow I survived and I'm still here. 2009 will be a big question for all of us. We do not know the landscape in 2009. It looks to me increasingly like it will be melted vanilla ice cream. That is the new norm. Melted vanilla ice cream is the new norm. No room for chocolate swirl. No room for any tasty ice cream anymore come 2009. And so we must all stand up for Alex Jones, because when they came for him, if you said nothing, what are you going to do when they come for a liberal?
Join the Savage Nation. Call now, 855-400-SAVAGE, 855.
Of the NRA. It went back to my time in the federal government with the Clinton administration.
Well, welcome back to the Savage Nation. I apologize for something beyond my control. There are rogue elements being put into the electronic log of my program that I have no control over, and I feel obligated to tell you this because it happened yesterday and now it's happening again today. Right now, we are talking about freedom of speech. Right now, we're talking about the lights going out in America. Right now, we're talking about broadcasters being subjected to censorship. And right now, we have the man who is in the news, who I'm very, very happy to have on the program, Alex Jones. Alex, welcome to the Savage Nation.
Dr. Savage, really thank you for being one of the few in America that understands what's happening and defending free speech. It's great to be here during this very, very serious time.
Well, let's start with the people out there who do not know what's going on. Tell the audience at large what happened to you, where your program is broadcast and what happened.
Okay. Well, I mean, here's what's going on, bottom line. Hillary ran $18 million worth of ads against Trump, editing tapes of me to misrepresent what I've said about a bunch of different issues, sometimes on totally different issues, totally deceptive. And then they built that up after Trump won, and then have just been hyping it in the media for the last year and a half what a horrible person I am. Now, I'm not that big and important. I mean, your show's bigger than mine. But I figured it out. They said I'm an easy target because they can edit stuff I've said out of context. You're a little bit more careful than me, I'll be honest. They edit out of context. Then they say, okay, we want to ban Alex Jones off the web. And they start having the New York Times, the Washington Post. I mean, thousands of articles a week the last few months. And I said, listen, I'm no rocket scientist, but the only person more demonized than me is Trump. They're just using me as a test case. And then, boom, they start saying 3 weeks ago, oh, I was mean to transgenders, I was mean to Muslims, and I beat up a kid. Forbes said that I beat up a kid. We look at the videos they took down off YouTube. It's me covering Islamic invasion of Europe. It's that ABC News clip of the kid punching the adult in the face, and the guy pushes it down. And it's transgenders in schools, pole dancing for kids. So that's all I covered. So, A, they never show what I supposedly said. When they then defame me and say I'm involved in all this liberal hate speech, when they take me down. So they're using me as the example for deplatforming. Then, Sunday night, Monday morning, it hits.
When you say it hits, what does that mean? What happened to your program?
Total deplatforming on hundreds of podcast platforms, YouTube, Facebook, so many other platforms, Apple, iTunes, where we had tens of millions of subscribers just on iTunes, 2.5 million subscribers on YouTube. All of it is completely deleted. They don't even put strikes against the account. They don't claim we violated the rules. There is a Night of Long Knives or Crystal Knot, a total purge of me. And then we learn a Democrat memo came out saying, this is on top of Drudge right now, that they're going to first purge me and then purge everybody else. Here's the headline out of Reason. Senate Democrats are circulating plans for government takeover of the Internet. Once that came out, okay, Senator Chris Murphy comes out and says, InfoWars is the tip of a giant iceberg of hate and lies that uses sites like Facebook and YouTube to tear our nation apart. That's the left. These companies must do more than take down one website. The survival of our democracy depends on it. They then called for talk radio to be restricted. That means you. They then called in the actual memo and his own statements for Fox News to be deplatformed. So they're so desperate ahead of these midterms where it looks like Trump's going to win, where it looks like these candidates, Republicans, are going to win, that they are actually deplatforming me off our email server, off of LinkedIn that I wasn't even using. Credit card companies are calling. They are hitting us. And everybody overuses the Hitler analogy, but D'Souza's film, I don't know if you've seen it, totally proves it's true. The last time America faced something like this, we were fighting somebody doing it in Europe. Hitler literally deplatformed and put people in physical ghettos first, wouldn't let them have business, wouldn't let them have banks, wouldn't let them have shops, made them weak first, starved them, made them be forgotten before he shipped them off to death camps. And then, on the heels of that, Morning Joe calls for me to be arrested, lying, saying I threatened Robert Mueller. So now MSNBC, CNBC, and CNN are all calling for my arrest. So these crazy Trump derangement syndrome...
Wait. Arrest for what?
They claim I threatened Mueller when all I did was a spaghetti western saying it's high noon, politically we're going to take you out. It was very clear I'm nonviolent. So all I'm saying is...
All right, so it was a satire or a parody. Alex, I understand your entire life is now being threatened. Is everything they're saying against you made up?
All of it is either made up or completely twisted. Just like Trump says, hey, Mexicans are great people, but a lot of them coming across the border unvetted are rapists and murderers. Then they say Trump says all Mexicans are rapists and murderers. It's the exact same game. Just like the little girl, they said they separated her from her mother. It wasn't even true. It's all a giant hoax, but that isn't what matters. I knew that I wasn't this important 6 months ago when they intensified their lies about me. they were just building me into the straw man that they would destroy first. You know how authoritarians work. First,
No, I understand. They're taking you down first because you're the most vocal, you're the most out there guy on the conservative side. Everybody knows that. God bless you. But have you said anything along the way that you would wish you hadn't said?
I mean, my God, I've said 100 things that in hindsight, how they twisted it, I wish I wouldn't have said. But
right, I understand that. I'm in the same boat. When you're talking all day long, you don't think like a politician does about how your words can be reorganized to make it sound like something entirely different.
20 people.
But look, Alex, I'm on your side, or I wouldn't have had you here because I believe in freedom of speech. And when they came for Alex Jones, if I didn't stand up for you, right, it's the old story. We are at the beginning of a guy like Mark Zuckerberg, who knows no bounds to his egomania and his greed, in my opinion, becoming a new czar of information for the left-wing governments around the world. But did you actually say that nobody died at the Sandy Hook Elementary School shooting?
No, what I did is that I never created the original thing about that, and this was 5.5 years ago. What happened was people were saying it, they were showing anomalies, and I said, no, I believe it happened, but I can see how people, we lied about babies in incubators in 1990, could believe that, and then I would play devil's advocate just like, I mean, everybody does in free form. I'm not like a politician spending days figuring out each line I say. And so they took it out of context, and about 3 years ago, they started saying, well, you're causing threats and problems. And I said, well, let me be clear. I think people died, and so I'm sorry if that was taken out of context. They never let me clarify. They just keep...
I understand what you're saying. I get it. I accept it. I'm not here to put you on trial. But, that's a big one.
Clarify it.
Now, do you think these companies like Facebook have a right to ban anyone they want? They are private companies, after all.
Here's the problem. They advertise as public utilities, especially Google. They have created a monopoly all working together now. And then they have terms of service where they let Keith Olbermann call for Trump's murder and death, and then I never call for any such thing, and then I start getting restricted. And so they have terms of service where they are now trying to basically deny me to buy a plane ticket or get on a bus in the whole information superhighway. They're trying to bar me off the Internet, and they're trying to use me and the straw man they've created as the case point, Dr. Savage, to then ban everyone else. And I'm going to tell you again, that's the key to all this. The New York...
No, I know. You're the first one. However, in 2008, I was banned in Britain. I'm not going to bring it up again. But it was the original fight for free speech in the media. I'm the only member of the American media who stood firm against an entire government to try to free my name from a list of murderers and terrorists. And I will tell you, Alex, it didn't work. I spent a fortune, and England has not taken my name off that list. Once Big Sis goes amiss, there's almost no fighting them.
Well, you're totally correct. That's what I'm saying, is that I've said the EU model of censorship and so-called hate speech, a leftist term, that they use where they misrepresent what you've said. They then say you're a banned person. You were patient zero. You were the canary in the coal mine. In fact, on my own show, I break that down. So that's what I'm trying to say. Forget me. Okay, folks, this isn't about Alex Jones. Democrat senators are publicly on CNN saying Alex Jones is the tip of a rotten iceberg. Ban them all. And you know, Dr. Savage, you are right on that list, and you're right.
I've been on the list a long time. I wear it as a red badge of courage. But it's no joking matter. I quoted Churchill at the beginning of the show in his great The Lights Are Going Out speech in 1939 when he saw what Hitler was trying to do to the rest of Europe. And he talked about the centuries that it took to develop the wonderful civilization that Christianity brought in Western Europe. And he said, we're slowly going to lose it. What took such a slow evolution to create will be lost in the blink of an eye, in essence, unless we fight it. And so, Alex, how are you going to fight this?
Well, that's it. I mean, I'm going to go on shows like yours and others, and I'm going to warn people.
Well, wait, who else would have you on?
Pardon me?
Who else is going to have you on?
You know, Tucker Carlson's on vacation, but he's been defending us. I know some other people have.
Good for him.
Absolutely.
Do you actually think that they're going to let you go on Fox News to present your case?
You know, probably not, but regardless, here's all I'm saying. I'm not worried about me at the end of the day. You've been doing this a little bit longer than I have. You know, we're just committed to the truth. We're going to let the chips fall where they may. I'm just raising the alarm. The Democrats admit I am the test case. As you just said, let's be honest, I say stuff out of context. I play devil's advocate. I do satire. They take it out of context. That's their fault. I hardly even do it anymore because they do it.
Yep.
So deceptive, and so.
Well, Alex, here's what they did to me, and it's a very important lesson. I went on the air in 2007 or 8, and I said, what would happen if a rogue Muslim government got control of a nuclear weapon, and we knew who had that weapon, in which country had that weapon, and it was a Hobson's choice. I said, would you rather see 100 million of them killed or 100 million of us killed? What did the media do? They said, Michael Savage said kill 100 million Muslims. I never said that. This is how they work.
Exactly. You were doing a professor thought process to get people thinking about choices and how serious the issues are, which any intellectual would understand, and they took that like you were being literal. That's exactly what they do to me. But listen, here's the bottom line. They are using me for whatever reason, because I've done so much of that, and maybe part of it's my fault. I'll admit it. I'm not perfect. To go after everybody. I mean, I would bet I'm 45. Look like I'm 60. I would bet when you were 45, you're not as smart as you are now. I've learned a lot of damn lessons.
I don't know. I may have been smarter. I wasn't in talk radio.
Well, all I know is the globalists are making their move on America. They brought 10 million military-age men Muslim into Europe. I know that I went to the mall to take my daughter to dinner last night and saw women in full burqas. This is not America. This is authoritarianism. And the global.
Oh, wait, speaking of burqas, even liberal Denmark has banned the burqa knowing that it will destroy their civilization. So why do you have to defend a thing like that?
Well, exactly. And I'm just sitting there like I'm in the Star Wars space bar, and these women are totally enslaved wearing, these Halloween costumes, and I feel totally bad when they sit down next to us and the husbands are telling them when they can eat, what they can order, like they're 3-year-olds, and I'm sitting there with 3 of my daughters with me, and I felt sick.
Right. It's the opposition to liberal democracy. The feminists should be on the front lines of that particular issue. Alex, we're going to do something now that's a little risky for both of us. We're going to open up the lines on the Savage Nation to the man of the hour, and that man is Alex Jones. If you have a question or a comment, you've got to keep it to 15 to 30 seconds or less. And the phone number here is 855-400-SAVAGE, 855-400-7282 to the Savage Nation.
Join the Savage Nation. Call now, 855-400-SAVAGE, 855-400-7282. Savage.
The Savage Nation is sponsored by Swiss America, the only company I trust with my financial future. Call 800-289-2646 or SwissAmerica.com. There's a lot of warnings you don't want to miss, like a sign letting there's a bridge out ahead, or a lifeguard announcing shark in the water. But in the digital world, there may be no warning when it comes to cyber threats. Well, good thing new LifeLock identity theft protection now adds Norton Security for more protection. You see, LifeLock uses proprietary technology to help detect threats to your identity, like your personal info for sale on the dark web. And Norton Security protects your devices from online threats like ransomware. And by the way, if there's a problem, their agents will work to fix it. Of course, no one can prevent all identity theft or cybercrime or monitor all transactions at all businesses. But having new LifeLock with Norton means they'll warn you about the threats you could miss on your own. So listen, join now and get an extra 10% off your first year, plus a $25 Amazon gift card. That's right, with annual enrollment. Just go to LifeLock.com or call 1-800-LifeLock. Use promo code SAVAGE. You want that $25 Amazon gift card with annual enrollment? Go to LifeLock.com or call 1-800-LifeLock. Promo code SAVAGE. That's promo code SAVAGE. Terms apply. Hey, spring is in the air, and what better way to celebrate the good weather than with a good night's sleep? I used to wake up every night twisting, turning, but since I got my pillow last year, I really have never slept better. Getting a good night's sleep is so important. You're guaranteed to feel great the next morning after using a My Pillow. They make great gifts. They have so much more than just pillows, including, sheets, mattress pillow tops, even dog beds. Woof, woof. My Pillow uses a patented technology that morphs perfectly to the type of sleeper that you are. Best part about My Pillow is it's all manufactured right here in the United States and comes with a 10-year warranty. You can even wash and dry My Pillow. Best part is you get a 60-day money-back guarantee. You have nothing to lose. Please go to MyPillow.com or call 800-768-0898, promo code SAVAGE, and take advantage of my special 4-pack deal. You buy 2 premium My Pillows, you get 2 Go Anywhere pillows for free. Go again to MyPillow.com or call 800-768-0898. Use code SAVAGE to take advantage of my special 4-pack deal. Before returning to our show, I want to talk about home security. You know I talk about Simply Safe Home Security a lot because it's a great security system. It's the best protection at the best value. Well, guess what? They've now become a $1 billion company. Now, I've known the founder and the others since they started on this radio show, and they started it only because they wanted to help their friends who were being burglarized. Now it's worth $1 billion because Simply Safe today protects over 2 million people. You get protection against fires, leaks, intruders, burst pipes. Simply Safe keeps working during power outages, down Wi-Fi. Even if a burglar smashes your keypad, they keep working. System is easy to use, intuitive, takes a minute to set up, a few minutes. And with Simply Safe, there are no contracts or hidden fees, 24/7 monitoring, only $14.99 a month. Please order your Simply Safe system right now. And my listeners get free shipping, free returns, simplysafesavage.com. Write it down. That's simplysafesavage.com to protect your home with Simply Safe today. Once again, simplysafesavage.com. We go back to Alex Jones in the few minutes that remain in this hour. Perhaps he can stay over for your questions. Alex, here's the main question. Facebook and the others, are you going to sue them for conspiracy to damage you?
Well, when I say this, I've had a lot of top lawyers offer to sue them for free if I can give the time to it. I think it's a good idea, except this. You know about lawsuits. Once you get into them, it takes years sometimes, and by then the whole landscape's changed. I think the key here is, again, the Democrats have announced officially, this is in mainstream news, they're going after all conservatives, all Republicans. There's articles every hour about Republican congressmen and women who are trying to communicate on Twitter and Facebook and post their own ads. Democrats can post theirs, but they can't. This is incredible election meddling by the Democrats, not by this made-up red herring of the Russians.
But you have no platform all of a sudden. Now, you know and I both know what they do in lawsuits if they have unlimited money. They could depose you for 70,000 hours and destroy your life. In other words, there was a law that limits depositions to 7 hours, no matter how many attorneys there may be. However, there are extenuating circumstances, Alex, I warn you in advance, where they could depose you for the rest of your life and grill you day after day after day until they make you want to go away. You know that.
I believe you have your speeches. Soros-funded groups, Hillary's 3 of her own admitted law firms, they brag about it in the news. They filed 21 lawsuits on me in the last year and a half since Trump.
Well, what did they file lawsuits on you for?
Everything under the sun. But the point is that 11 have been thrown out. It still costs me money and time. You're absolutely right. I was in the courthouse in Travis County off and on 4 days last week and couldn't even do my own broadcast most of the time because they...
Wait, Alex, we're running out of time. I hope you can stay with us in the next hour and take calls from around America and around the world. This is the biggest topic of our time. Yes, it's about Alex Jones today, but who is it about tomorrow? Even the ACLU is saying this is going to be the biggest mistake these companies ever made because they know that they're next. They know that they are next.
Join the Savage Nation. Call now, 855-400-SAVAGE, 855-400-7282. Savage. Warning. The Savage Nation contains adult language, adult content, psychological nudity. Listener discretion is advised. And now, America's most exciting radio talk show, The Savage Nation, home of borders, language, culture. And here he is, author of Liberalism is a Mental Disorder, Trump's War, and God, Faith, and Reason, Michael Savage.
You see these dictators on their pedestal, surrounded by the bayonets of their soldiers and the truncheons of their police. They are afraid of words and thoughts. Words spoken abroad, thoughts stirring at home. All the more powerful becomes forbidden. These terrify them. A little mouse, a little tiny mouse of thought appears in the room, and even the mightiest potentates are thrown into panic. They make frantic efforts to bar out thoughts and words. They're afraid of the workings of the human mind. A state of society where men may not speak their minds, where children denounce their parents to the police, where a businessman or small shopkeeper ruins his competitor by telling tales about his private opinion. Such a state of society cannot long endure if it is brought continually in contact with the healthy outside world.
Well, where is this healthy outside world now that the tyrants like Mark Zuckerberg have decided to become the new Goebbels of our time? Not in what they say, mind you, but in what they don't let others say. See, it's the reverse, but it comes out to be the same thing. It's like shadow and form. Goebbels was a propagandist who said vile, horrible, hateful, lying things. And he stirred the masses with this hatred, which led to the death of millions of people because of this racist hatred. But now we have people who don't let those who want to speak their truths from speaking because it may offend someone, the invisible someones, now controlling the mass of humanity in what they can think, what they can say, what they can read tomorrow. Will they soon start burning books that are offensive to some? We're not too far from that today. I dedicated this book, Banned in Britain, very simply, dedicated to all the men who died defending freedom of speech. The next time you go to a war memorial cemetery, the next time you drive on a highway and you see a military cemetery and you see all those crosses, think about what they died for. What were they fighting for? They were fighting for freedom. That means freedom of speech. That means freedom of the press. And now we have a few shadowy giants who control the means of communications in ways the government never dreamed it could control them. A few men. Mark Zuckerberg is the most prominent because he was recently before Congress. You have others who control it. Men you never heard of, women you never heard of. But they think that they have the God Almighty power to block the thought of those they don't agree with. They may have the legal right to do so, but I hope not for very long. I hope that soon the government of ours, whatever it does, will hold hearings on monopoly and come to the conclusion that when a company of communications becomes large enough, it is no longer a private company and it is subject to the rules and regulations of a public utility. That would level the playing field, wouldn't it? Doesn't mean they have to put anyone on they don't like, but it also means they can't ban people they don't like just because they don't like them. Do you understand that? Do you understand that? Fox News has the right to ban anyone they want. So if Wallbanger hates me because he's afraid of my intellect and my education, afraid of being exposed for the thin mind that he actually has, for example, if that is the reason I am banned, well, so be it. It's a private enterprise, not a public utility. And so you come to Facebook. You come to Twitter. I use Twitter every day. I've come to love it. Never paid much attention to it until the president started tweeting. I was offended by the president's tweets. I said he should stop. I said it's something 8-year-olds do. Well, and suddenly I started doing it myself. And you know why? It's liberating. I found that Twitter is very liberating for me. Great place for me to express an idea in the middle of the night. It's a great place to hear what you have to say. It's faster than talk radio. When I was strictly a writer many years ago, I met a great editor in New York who published me. She was with the Houghton Mifflin Company, distinguished Bostonian. She published a book of mine entitled Maximum Immunity. It was just at the beginning of the AIDS epidemic. It was a great book, very important book that was published and printed in 7 languages. And she said to me, Michael, you know, you really ought to consider a career in radio. Long before I even thought of radio, I didn't even know what radio was. I never listened to it except for music. I said, why? She said, because it's instantaneous. She said, you can express your ideas and get people to respond to you right away. She said, books take too long. They take a year to conceptualize, a year to write, a year to publish. By that time, your mind is somewhere else, she said. Well, I still write because I write books that are very in the moment, like Stop Mass Hysteria coming out in October. But I love radio because it's instantaneous. And unlike Twitter and unlike Facebook, I get real people responding. Some of them are stupid. Some of the trolls. Some are lowlifes who just resent anybody who is smarter than them and try to run you down. You just ignore them. And then we come to today. We wake up and we find out that Alex Jones, who has a huge and loyal following, which with much crossover into regular conservative talk radio, my show and others included. Make no mistake about it. Those who listen to Alex Jones also listen to people in talk radio. There's a huge crossover audience. He's not alone. He's not simply talking to himself. Alex, are you with us on the Savage Nation?
I am. Listen to the great points you're making. I just want to...
Alex, how many people do you have listening to you on a daily basis?
Well, I mean, they just banned us on, like, our top 10 podcasts, but we had over 10 million subscribers just on iTunes alone. That gives you an idea. 2.5 million subscribers on YouTube, about 20 million viewers, 20 million.
Now, when you say subscribers, do people pay for that?
No, they click on it to have it sent to their inbox, and then there's also numbers for what they watch and what they do. The point is that
Wait, so you have one of the most listened to podcasts in America, right?
Yes, and the Democrats' answer was to ban it as the beta test, to ban everybody else. So I'm just here because the president listens to you to raise the alarm that just like Congressman Matt Gaetz said when they shadow banned him and a bunch of other members of Congress 2 weeks ago, this is donations in kind, violating federal election commission laws, to the Democrats to let them talk to their people, let them be on Facebook and Twitter, let them be on Google. The conservatives are all shadow banned, meaning they dial you back to almost nothing, and you think you're talking to people and you're reaching 1% of who's there. That is election meddling at a galactic level. They're just using me with this ban to...
Well, look, Alex, I've been shadow banned by third world lowlifes on Facebook for about 6 to 9 months right now. Do you know why Mark Zuckerberg hires people from countries where there is no freedom of speech? People who hardly speak English? Because they come from nations where there is no free speech. So he uses these useful idiots to ban people like me, to shadow block me. Some uneducated dolt from some third world hellhole sits there in a dark little room in Silicon Valley, if not in the country of origin itself, and says, I don't like what Savage just said. I'll shadow ban him. He sits and listens and literally can block what I put up on that site. Can you believe this? This is what goes on in the nation of the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Yes, and they've been doing it in secret, and now we're drawing it out. So that's why here on your own huge broadcast, it's not about Alex Jones, it's not about Infowars.com. It's about... they are moving against everyone. The shadow ban has gone from, on average, 80% of us being dialed back. That is 80% of what we do being dialed back. That was the average to 93%. There are big sites that track it. Now 93% of conservative or pro-Trump, pro-America, or pro-gun, or pro-God, or pro-Israel particularly, anything that is pro-West is being dialed back 93% as of yesterday.
But why would these white people who are in the nation called America be kowtowing to these third world despots?
It's because the big multinational corporations have already been exploiting the third world. Now they're playing a demographics game. They don't like Lincoln and the Republicans and anti-racism. They don't want to really have the Christian or political system of the ethic of Judeo-Christian ideas about what you stand for, unifying people. They want divide and conquer. They want balkanization. They want to go back to things being nothing but racial and religious so they can program us according to that and not have us demand rights and liberties and free market. So the cold-blooded big corporations act like they're pushing liberalism, but really they're pushing something more akin to Nazism, like Dinesh D'Souza in his new film exposes, and that's where we are right now, is the death of the nation. They're killing nation states. These people are anti-American. They have created these armies to do it, and they're using me as the beta test to hope conservatives, after I've been demonized falsely for years, out of context, go, yeah, I'm for free speech, but Alex Jones is out there. Meanwhile,
I see. So, no, I understand. They're going to take you first. It's the old story of the old cardinal in Germany who said when they came for the Jews, I did not raise my voice because I was not a Jew. When they came for the gypsies, I did not raise my voice because I was not a gypsy. When they came for the trade unionists, I did not raise my voice because I was not a trade unionist. And when they came for me, there was no one left to speak up for me. That was Cardinal Niemöller, a Christian, by the way, who wound up in a concentration camp and learned a great lesson from being a coward who sits in silence as these power-hungry trillionaires try to crush all freedom of thought in this country and in the world.
What I'm saying is, I have a little guilt. Nobody's perfect, and some of it I should have done better. But they've misrepresented, and now I have this sick feeling because I'm getting more publicity, more traffic than ever while they burn down the First Amendment. Later, it's going to be freezing cold. But
Alex, let's be clear. You have said things that have offended people, like the things with the killing of the children. I mean, that was the big one, wasn't it?
Yeah, and they took it out of context. I was covering other people, and they covered. But the point is that when I realize, and they admit, once we get Jones, we're going to get everybody. I'm just ringing the alarm. They're coming for the First Amendment. They plan to steal the midterms. Trump and Congress need to move on antitrust. They need to move on racketeering. These companies have been bragging how they're censoring us. We have them.
Well, why doesn't Trump do that? Well, I'll give you the answer. Because I know the answer. I can pretty much tell you what happened. When Trump just started, he was talking anti-monopoly in the beginning against companies like Amazon and Google. I remember it distinctly. And then a funny thing happened on the way to the theater. They came to the White House and had a meeting with him and his inner staff. I think that they must have worked out a deal that they would go soft on him if they let them reign without any interference whatsoever. I think a deal had been struck, and I don't think that anyone in this administration is going to lift a finger to help you. Am I wrong?
That's inside baseball. I don't know if you were told. Actually, people that Trump didn't sell us out. He just has this free market thing where do what you want as a company. He doesn't get the utility. And they said, we will leave you alone, but let us do what we want. And he said, yeah, it's his own fault. Because he is strong, he is a bull, I love him, but it's a little bit of arrogance. He said, they're not going to be able to block me. Well, you know what? They broke that deal. They've been dialing him back 90%. They've been turning his volume down, and that's why I'm saying I love Trump. He loves America. He's a good guy, but he doesn't understand how this works. They are killing us. They are dialing everything back, and the emergency bat signal here on your program, because I know he listens, is do something. They are going to steal the election. They are going to indict you. They are going to overthrow the country. They are going to merge with the radical jihadis. It is their plan. They believe they're going to do it, and I cannot believe that we've gone this far. So it's the biggest.
But, Alex, what could the president do today if he wanted to stop the power madness and the censorship that is going on by the social giants? What could he actually do?
He could say, we're going to push for hearings in Congress next week for the election meddling, a big tech that's pledged itself. Like
wow.
Jack Dorsey said.
Oh, now hold it. Now that's a great thought. Election meddling that is not imaginary like the Russian collusion is imaginary thus far, but that we all know is true. The election meddling that is being done by the tech giants in order to make certain that illegitimate left-wing fanatics gain all the power in Congress. This is the Savage Nation. If you can't join the conversation, you can't, because, of course, the people are very excited by this meeting of the minds of Michael Savage and his guest, Alex Jones. And I would be remiss to tell you that I didn't think twice about having Alex on. I'll be very honest with you, Alex. I had to think about it. No man is an island unto himself. But you're the only one who was there when I needed you. The rest are fraudulent from the top to the bottom. They stand for nothing but the bottom line. I'll be right back.
Join the Savage Nation. Call now, 855-400-SAVAGE, 855-400-7282. Savage.
The Savage Nation is sponsored by Swiss America, the only company I trust with my financial future. Call 800-289-2646 or SwissAmerica.com. Are you stuck with a timeshare you don't want anymore? Well, if you are pressured into buying a timeshare that you can't afford and don't want, there are three things you can do. Keep it, go bankrupt, or let Wesley Financial Group help you. Chuck McDowell, CEO of Wesley Financial Group, does one thing and one thing only: help timeshare owners get out of their contracts. And he has a proven track record. In fact, Chuck McDowell of Wesley Financial Group was sued by the largest timeshare company in federal court. Like the story of David and Goliath, Chuck just wanted to stand up for what was right and help timeshare owners who had been lied to. It took the jury less than 20 minutes to rule in his favor, and he's been fighting the big timeshare giants ever since. So don't hesitate to call my friends at Wesley Financial Group. 800-960-3377. They'll get you out of your timeshare, eliminate your payments, and get them off your back permanently. And they have an A-plus rating with the Better Business Bureau. The call is free. The consultation is free. 800-960-3377. 800-960-3377. This is the Savage Nation. I recognize that many of you are fans of talk radio. You're not casual scanners of the radio band. You listen to the show religiously every day, as you do other shows from morning till night. Some of you cross over to the internet and listen to podcasts. We are speaking with I would say, the largest podcaster on the conservative side in the world, Alex Jones, who has basically been blocked and banned by the tech giants. And we're talking about the ramifications of this ban to all of us in America, no matter which side of the political spectrum we may be. Today you may be celebrating if you say, well, great, it's time for them to crack down on the people on the right. Well, if you let them do that today, who do you think is going to get it tomorrow when we're all gone? Soon they will be going after you. And even the radical ACLU agrees with the position I have just stated. Again, let's go back to Alex Jones. Alex, line 10, welcome back to the program. Are you there?
I am. It's great to be here, Michael, and I'm glad that you're standing up for the First Amendment. And as you said, I've stood up for you because, and I love what you say and what you cover anyways. I've been a listener for 20 years, or close to it, but it's like hang together or hang separate. They misrepresent what you say. They misrepresent what I say. Usually it's something in between, but they're making their move ahead of these elections to fully deplatform people, to put people literally in these unpersoned, depersoned 1984 really electronic ghettos that Matt Drudge years ago warned about on my show and your show and other broadcasts. So we're here.
Well, Alex, what is to prevent them from closing down websites if they can close you down?
Again, the Democrats have put out a memo that Reason's reporting on. Senate Democrats are circulating plans for government takeover of the Internet. Dem Senator demands more censorship of conservative media. He says,
wait, how many Republicans have gone along with it? Because I do remember Trent Lott, amongst other Republicans, called for the banning of talk radio when they were in power. It was not just the Democrats.
Savage.
Have you ever taken your car in for an oil change, your mechanic finds something wrong, and bingo, surprise, you're hit with a huge repair bill? And what happens when you're not covered by the manufacturer's warranty? You're paying out of your own pocket to fix it, that's what. That's why I recommend extended vehicle protection from CarShield. If your car has 5,000 to 150,000 miles, CarShield can save you from paying for high repair bills. Replacing your engine or even a simple sensor can cost thousands. But when you're protected by CarShield, you can have your favorite mechanic or dealership fix your car. It's your choice. CarShield also provides 24/7 roadside assistance and a rental car while yours is being fixed for free. Get covered by the ultimate and extended vehicle protection. Get CarShield. How? Call 800-CAR-6100. 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 Mention code SAVAGE or visit carshield.com. Use code SAVAGE to save a big 10%. That's carshield.com or 800-CAR-6100. Code SAVAGE to save 10%. A deductible may apply. Welcome back to the Savage Nation. We're talking with Alex Jones, who is all over the media today. I hope that the big media will have him on. I think some in the media would love to have him on. Alex, are you there?
I am. I want to say this right now, Michael. You are the big media with tens of millions of listeners. CNN has like 200,000 average viewers, but they've got a bunch of attack dogs and the establishment behind them. So I just want to say that I hope you'll come on my broadcast to lay out all your great breakdown of where we are, and I hope your listeners realize how serious this is. The good news is we launched a new app 3 weeks ago, InfoWars Official, on iTunes and Droid. It was like number 30 or something in news. Now it's number 4 today because of their censorship, and will probably go to number 1 But CNN is saying ban the InfoWars official app. So, look, if they're able to shut me down, I don't want that to happen, but maybe you'll have me on, or vice versa. That's why we're all in this together. So when I go to sleep at night, I feel good knowing you're there. I feel good knowing Drudge is there. There's not a lot of people. Like you said, it's pretty scary that almost no one is standing up for what's happening to me when the Democrats admit it is for everybody. Don Jr. says this ban of Alex Jones in a tweet is about banning all conservatives. Yeah, the Democrats say so, and he links to the Democrats admitting it. So this fight is everybody's fight, and all I care about is us winning.
But, Alex, it's good to hear what they have to say, but the fact is the president has the power to talk about the collusion of the tech giants and break them up by sicking the antitrust division of the Justice Department on them. He has that power. He can do that.
Well, 80% of Trump's agenda is right off your show, so I just think it takes some time.
Well, if 80% of my agenda is now in the White House, I'm a happy man. Alex, before you leave, the title of my next book is called Stop Mass Hysteria. Does that apply to what we are talking about today?
Yes, sir, it does. We have Trump derangement syndrome. You were the first person I heard that pointed out that liberalism is a mental disorder. It literally is. If you watch the Antifa rallies where they beat up women and children, these are crazy people. We had rallies in Portland. We had rallies in San Francisco, at Berkeley this weekend. My crew was there. The crowds were very diverse for liberty, for Trump. It was literally about demographically accurate. About 13% black we saw, about 20% Hispanic. And they were all Trump supporters, and the Antifa meth heads were all these little white, punks. And so that's the good news is, in the polls, double the numbers of blacks and Hispanics for Trump. I think we've educated people, and they're choosing America. So anytime you want me on, I am so honored to be here with you. I'd love to come on anytime you want and take calls, and I'd love to have you on, Dr. Savage, because we're all indebted to you and the work you do. But if folks want to find out the big, evil stuff they don't want you to know, Infowars.com and Newswars.com. And thanks for standing up for the First Amendment. We really appreciate it.
Alex, thanks for being with us and explaining your position and your horrible position today. When I say horrible position, meaning the position that the illegitimate have put us in. We are living in dark times, and the guys like Zuckerberg need to be taken out by the government to the woodshed before a Senate committee and be told they're going to be broken up like Standard Oil was unless they stop their tyrannical behavior. Thank you very much, Alex Jones. That brings us back to the Savage Nation itself, which means the callers to this program, which means you. And unfortunately, for those of you who are trying to get in, you can't get in right now, but we'll begin right where we left off. I have not taken any callers today. I hope some of them are still there. We're completely sold out. Let's begin in Reno, Nevada. Great city, great market, very loyal audience in that area of Reno. It goes all the way up to the Sierra Mountains, down into Tahoe, etc. 50,000 powerful watts. Justin on KKOH line 1. Go ahead, please.
Dr. Savage, thank you for having me. I just wanted to thank you and thank Mr. Jones. You guys, please keep fighting the good fight with an issue as fundamental as freedom of speech being threatened. I feel sometimes when I listen to your radio or I listen to those podcasts, I'm behind enemy lines and your voice is coming over the radio with truth, with giving us courage.
Yeah, this is Edward R. Murrow reporting from the war zone of London during the Blitz. I get it. Right. The V-2 rockets are flying, only they're not flying from Berlin. They're flying from Silicon Valley. Thank you for the observation. I'll do this as long as I can and as long as I'm able to, but I will tell you that nobody knows, whether it is for me or anyone else, what will happen in 2009 after these elections. Nobody knows where the chips may fall, and nobody can tell you on any avenue what's going to be left in 2009 after this election. Nobody really knows. Okay, my friends, 855-400-7282. Ken on KSFO, line 8. Go ahead, you're up on the Savage Nation. 30 seconds or less, please.
Thank you, Doctor. Your show today, I think, is the most important broadcast in the history of radio journalism in this country. I think you've nailed it. You've nailed the fact that the greatest of our problems is... Hello?
Yeah, I'm here.
Yeah, you've nailed the fact that the greatest of our problems are political and societal along these lines. And I even think that spills over into the religious issue, too. the American Catholic cardinals and bishops right now should
we're going to get into too many different topics for the average listener, and I don't mean to cut you off for your content, but for the sake of continuity and the listeners themselves, I would like to go back to the issue of the day, which is freedom of speech and the overbearing power of a few men in terms of not of broadcasting, but of the transmission of ideas. Okay, what is the end game here? Where will this go? Where will this go? And as someone is calling and saying, if this is happening under Donald Trump, which it is happening under Donald Trump, because the left is in panic mode, they have their own internal polls. You think that Facebook and Twitter don't have internal polls? You think they don't know that there's not going to be a rout of Donald Trump and the Republicans? You think they don't know that? They're in a panic mode. So if this is happening under Donald Trump, can you imagine what would be happening had she won? Can you imagine what world we would be living in? Can you imagine what it would be like to be a minority of opinion in the country if that monster had won the election? So we ought to thank God for what we already have and not give up so quickly. We are being overrun by the insanity of the left and their fake ultra-tolerance. And they choose intolerance now as their only defense. You go to England, the once proud Britain of Churchill, the victors of the Battle of Britain, where so many flowers of Cambridge and Oxford nobly sacrificed their lives, are now reduced to broken flower pots of people ruling Britannia. Britain itself is now overrun by people who hate them and their way of life, hate their white race, hate their whiteness. The broken shards of England choose to condemn an American patriot, a man who speaks a border's language and culture. He is the enemy of the shards of England's pride. He is now the sum total of all that threatens the island's survival. This free spirit, ensnared by the descendants of those bold Norsemen, now fallen, their clay feet crumbling, although the news story in blaring headlines was that Michael Savage, talk show host, was banned in Britain, the subtext should be this, really. Michael Savage, nationalist and patriot, banned from the globalist system. That was written by me in 2009 in my book, Banned in Britain, where I lay out forces beyond tech giants. I had a whole government come down to get me. And they came down to get me because they wanted to use me as an example. And I will tell you again that in many ways, I am the weather vane of the United States of America. I am the weather vane. I am Moses, Abraham, and Isaac. I am Charlemagne. I am John Wayne. I am Coltrane. They tried to suppress me, tried to redress me, called me incorrect, deserving no respect. I am Patton. I am Hatton, even Mountbatten. I am Eisenhower, not a wallflower. I am Washington. I am Pershing. I'm MacArthur. I am Kipling. I'm Audie Murphy. I am Sky King. I am Huxley, Orwell, Russell. I am Pauling, not falling. I am Madame Curie and Louis Pasteur. I am the bald eagle. They'll steal your crown, trample you down, take your good name, put it to shame. I am Gene Autry, Roy Rogers, Tom Mix. They tried to push me over the river Styx, but it won't mix with my true blood, which runs thick for America. I am the bane of those vain. I am the weather vane. I am Michael Savage. Now let's go to a quick break because I can't top that.
Join the Savage Nation. Call now, 855-400-SAVAGE, 855-400-7282. Savage.
The Savage Nation is sponsored by Swiss America, the only company I trust with my financial future. Call 800-289-2646 or SwissAmerica.com. If you take one atom of nitrogen and bond it with one atom of oxygen, what you just created is nitric oxide, a miracle molecule your own body makes, which fuels your cardiovascular health, keeping you vibrant. But as we all age, our bodies need help generating more natural nitric oxide. Super Beets by Human has harnessed the power of nutrient-enriched beets and created a superfood which helps your body make more nitric oxide on its own. The core philosophy of Human is to develop heart-healthy products for your body. You see, 1 teaspoon of Super Beets every day tends to support your cardiovascular health and blood pressure levels, giving you natural energy without the need of a quick caffeine kick or sugar high. And we're talking real healthy natural energy, so call 800-481-0504, 800-481-0504, or simply go to savagelovesbeats.com and find out how you can get free 30-day supply, free, and free shipping with your first purchase. It's a great deal. You're not going to regret it. Feel the 1 + 1 = boom effect of Super Beets. Call 1-800-481-0504 or go to savagelovesbeats.com. Today we're talking about free speech. It's probably one of the most important topics of our time because all of Western civilization, which took centuries to evolve to the level of the Magna Carta and then our Constitution and the Bill of Rights, is now being taken away from us literally in front of our eyes by a few greedy monsters in the tech giant arena. They have the power to do so in their own minds, but not in the minds of the American people. If left and right would join together on this, we could stop the madmen in Silicon Valley from destroying freedom of speech. And I want to conclude this hour by reading something that I wrote in Banned in Britain, which I self-published, by the way, shortly after I was banned in Britain. I published it in 2009, Savage Productions, Inc. There are only a few copies here and there. I want to read you something that's very important for today's show. Great nations all have their great moments in history. For the Roman Empire, the Pax Romana was a time of relative peace and stability from 27 BC to 180 AD. That's a long time. Great Britain's Pax Britannica went from 1815 and the defeat of Napoleon until the beginning of World War I. Our Pax Americana began in 1945, and some would argue that we are now in its final days. Though our economy is strong and our military is the best in the world, our national will to live is failing. We have the money, but we send it to China. This is what I wrote in 2009. We have the troops, but we do not use them. We have borders, but we pretend they don't exist. America is squandering its legacy. We stand on the shoulders of giants, the great men who built this nation, the generals, the scientists, the leaders, the Pattons, the Salks, the Roosevelts, but they are all gone, and no one has arisen to take their place. Today our generals are detractors, not attackers. Our scientists are besmirchers, not researchers. And our leaders are men in traction, not men of action. Who can put an end date on the Pax Americana? Will it come in 2010? Will it be the next Islamo-fascist attack? Or did it occur when we handed power over to the left? In any event, we have begun a new era. We are moving from the Pax Americana to the Lax Americana. The disease of liberalism has affected our nerve centers and is eating away at our ability to function. Only savage surgery can save us from this self-inflicted illness. Many have said I'm a seer. I wouldn't say I'm a prophet, but I am a seer. I am like Lyncaeus, the pilot seer of the Argonauts, who stands atop the highest mast of all the ships at sea. And I see farther ahead than most have seen. And as I conclude this hour, I would like to invite myself to a private meeting with Mark Zuckerberg, the man who runs Twitter, and the shadows who run Google, to explain to them why I and the others who they may detest politically are their best hope in the long run for survival, that we are not actually their enemies, we're actually their best friends. I've heard that Google hired so-called conservatives to advise them on what half of America thinks. They are so blind to us. Never heard from them since they hired them because they were invisible nobodies to begin with. What would you expect they're going to hire? Someone who actually knows what they're talking about? Or somebody who doesn't know what they're talking about to act as useful idiots and stooges? Again, this appeal goes to the gentleman who runs Twitter, Mark Zuckerberg and the others who run Facebook, the geniuses behind Google, and the others. Why don't you sit down with me? I have a real PhD from the University of California at Berkeley. That's right, I'm not like the others. I have written, 30 books? How many of them have been bestsellers? Why, all 5 of the last ones were bestsellers. There must be something to what I am saying. In the years you were in college, smoking dope and playing with computers, I was in the rainforests of the South Pacific rescuing the folklore of the indigenous peoples, and this folklore now sits in museums in 7 nations of the world. How is that even possible? Gee, I thought conservatives didn't know anything about the environment. Maybe you could learn something about the environment by sitting down with Michael Savage, who would be very happy to explain to you why it is so important to speak to those you disagree with rather than the yes girls that you have around you. And remember, as I conclude this show, I will conclude with Winston Churchill's great observation. If it was Winston Churchill, I'm not sure it was, maybe it was me. When I took what Churchill had said, and I said that the First Amendment was written by the genius founding fathers, not to protect polite speech, but to protect speech which is offensive. Speech which is offensive that Mark Zuckerberg may not like is not to be banned just because one man doesn't like it. He has a social responsibility to the world, not simply to himself. And he must enact his responsibility to the world, not simply to his own belief system. I'll be back in a few minutes for the third hour of the Savage Nation. Be here or be nowhere.
Join the Savage Nation. Call now, 855-400-SAVAGE, 855-400-7282. Savage. Warning. The Savage Nation contains adult language, adult content, psychological nudity. Listener discretion is advised. And now, America's most exciting radio talk show, The Savage Nation, home of borders, language, culture. And here he is, author of Liberalism is a Mental Disorder, Trump's War, and God, Faith, and Reason, Michael Savage.
All the stories have been told of kings in days of old, but there's no England now. All the wars that were won or lost somehow don't seem to matter very much anymore.
Yeah, all my life I've been an Anglophile. Still love watching the war movies, seeing the Brits fighting in the deserts in their shorts. I grew up listening to Churchill as an immigrant son. He was a citadel for me, just a citadel of genius and of the spunk of the British people. You know, when you approach a set of traffic lights, you know to slow down on a yellow light, to stop on a red light, or keep going on a green light. Signs announce the speed limit. What if you're on the Autobahn in Germany, where there are no speed limits and no traffic lights? You drive as fast as you dare, limited only by your car's performance capabilities, your nerves, and your driving skills. And as one of America's most blunt talk radio hosts, I have spoken at maximum speeds for 24 years now, 25 this March. I've attempted to speak the truth about where politicians are taking us without posted limits, save a few, such as I know all the rules. We do not attack the defenseless. We do not kill and talk radio. And I have increased my audience year by year, estimated to be very large. Never have I seen a traffic light or a road sign warning me to slow down or stop. And when my words have shocked powerful lobbying groups, I paid dearly, once losing a major television talk show and also some advertisers. In some cases, my words were twisted by my political opponents, even those who pose as conservatives. But whenever clear warning signs were posted, I followed the rules, adjusting my words but not my meaning. And yet without warning, out of the atmosphere it seemed, the British government one day made up their own imaginary rules of acceptable speech, and without any warning they condemned an innocent, honest man. That book, well, that act was called Banning Michael Savage from Entering Britain. And I wrote a book called Banned in Britain as an attempt to set the record straight and clear my name. Now, I remember the 1960s when true liberals used to say, I may disagree with you, but I would fight to the death for your right to say it. It was from Voltaire, who said it another way, more elegantly. But when have you last heard a liberal use that slogan in response to conservatives, and conservative talk radio in particular? Now they throw things and they pull the cord on your microphone. They become the neo-fascists of our time. I don't hear liberals saying that anymore. What I hear instead is they are threats to national security. That's right, threats to national security. Dianne Feinstein tried to pass the fairness doctrine back in the mid-2000s. Did you know that? The very same Dianne Feinstein who yesterday was caught up in one of the largest spy scandals of our time has such power over the media that we don't even hear about the spy scandal anymore. Not one word. So I ask you today on the Savage Nation, where are the true good liberals? Radio is in a more perilous state today than in its entire history. In South America, when the dictator Hugo Chavez was in power, he closed down what? Opposition TV stations. That was his first act. Well, you say that can't happen here. Did you hear what I just said? When the socialist dictator Hugo Chavez seized power in South America, in his country, what was the first act, one of the first acts he committed? He shut down opposition TV stations, all privately owned. Well, you say that can't happen here. What do you mean that can't happen here? Facebook has already done it to Alex Jones and to others. So what do you think is going to happen next? Well, Congress could bring back the so-called fairness doctrine. They don't need the fairness doctrine when they have the Zuckerberg doctrine. If you have the Zuckerberg doctrine, what do you need the fairness doctrine for when you have one man who controls so much of what people can hear? What do you need the fairness doctrine for? What do you need a thing like Congress for? What do you need representatives for? What do you need congressmen and senators for when you have Zuckerberg? We used to be told when we were educated by liberals to beware of censorship, beware of the intolerant, all-powerful governments. We were raised on it. I was raised on it. I was raised by reading Orwell and Huxley and all of the other greats. I read Brave New World. I swam in Brave New World. We were warned to watch out for government control over political views over and over again. Well, today we found out that one of the big voices on the conservative side, offensive to so many, but still in all, he has the right to say what he wants. He is no longer able to speak freely. Is that different than Chavez closing down a TV station, what Facebook Zuckerberg has done to him? Is that not a dictatorship of ideas? Of course it is. It's just that we use fancy rhetoric in this nation as opposed to police power. But make no mistake about it. What Zuckerberg and the others in Silicon Valley are doing to information right now is the very same thing as what was done in dictatorships around the world. For example, the media are in a giant lie when they all preach that all scientists now agree that global warming is caused by human activity. No, not all scientists agree, but you can't hear from the scientists who disagree. Why? Because there are very few of them, but they do exist and they have good data, but they're not funded by the government. Even Trump's been unable to turn the ship of lies around because he cannot find the scientists anymore. They were all driven out of academia. Do you understand that? They were driven out of academia because they could not get the support for their research. And that's what's going to go on now in the media. So why is it that these intellectuals deny their own freedom of speech to defend the freedom to preach hatred by their enemies? Do you remember when Daniel Pearl, the journalist from the Wall Street Journal, was executed and decapitated by the Islamofascists? Do you remember what he was forced to say? I played it on my show. It was very controversial. I heard him screaming as the Islamofascists cut his head off. I almost couldn't take it. But do you know what those vermin had him say as they cut his head off? They forced Daniel Pearl to say, "I am a Jew. My mother was a Jew," before Islamic murderers cut his head off while chanting to Allah. And yet that was never played on the major media. And I played Daniel Pearl's blood-curdling screams as he was dying, as his head was being severed. Would the new government under Zuckerberg require me to play the Islamofascist view that all Jews are evil, that all Jews deserve to have their heads cut off? Doesn't the fairness doctrine say that opposing views must be heard? Look, I want to define satire, ridicule, and sarcasm for those of us who love talk radio. Many of you don't even understand what satire is because it's a very complicated method of communication. What about irony? Do you know what that is? They're all different. Satire is the use of irony, sarcasm, ridicule, or the like in exposing or denouncing or deriding vice, folly, etc. Well, what is ridicule? We use it on talk radio all the time if we know how. It is speech or action intended to cause contemptuous laughter at a person or thing. That's ridicule. Derision, my friends, is ridicule. That's part of freedom of speech. And finally, what is sarcasm? Sarcasm should be used all the time if you know how to do it. What is sarcasm? It is harsh or bitter derision or irony, a sharply ironical taunt, a sneering or cutting remark. That, my friends, is freedom of speech. So when I offend people who listen to this show, including Republicans, knee-jerk Republicans for that matter, by pointing out, as I did in the 1990s, that there are now more contractors, there were more contractors than U.S. soldiers in Iraq at one point, whose freedom was I denying? The freedom of the military-industrial complex to rob the public? The freedom of those who refuse to either win definitively or leave Iraq? Eisenhower warned us, beware the military-industrial complex. And when I play that line on my show, as I have repeatedly, who am I actually criticizing, Democrats or Republicans? I'll let you decide. Well, my friends, when I support my position for borders, language, and culture, do I deny my fellow citizens their right to redress their grievances to a government all too eager to continue flooding our nation with cheap laborers and voters? When I present the fact that about 30% of all prisoners are illegal aliens, do I deny or do I grant my fellow U.S. citizens their right to speak freely through me, a talk show host? When I detail the epidemic of drunk driving and vehicular homicides being inflicted on this nation by brazen illegal alien drunks who are deported only to return and drive drunk again, drive and kill again, I surely do not deny my fellow Americans their freedom of speech or right to redress their grievances, do I? So whose rights am I offending? You figure it out. Now, if these and other like opinions were mine alone, I would not have risen to my position, the position I now enjoy in the world of the spoken and written word. Because of my radio program, I am the voice of the voiceless, those who have been marginalized and silenced by the lack of balance in the media. The limited exception is conservative talk radio, the most vulnerable medium, which is under attack by those who would ban free speech that they disagree with. There are those who want to achieve the same ends as in a dictatorship, and they're not Hugo Chavez. They're in Silicon Valley. They're in the Democrat Party. They're in the Republican Party. Remember, America is a nation of strong opinion. Our government has no inherent right to limit conservative voices they cannot refute through argument. Moreover, should the Democrats revive the fairness doctrine, or should Silicon tech giants be able to banish anyone they like? Will I be given access to the evening news on ABC, CBS, or NBC to give my opposing views? Who will determine what is balanced and fair? This doctrine is long dead and must remain in the ash can of broadcast history. So, again, I will say to you, there are those in Congress who want to ban all those they disagree with. You may celebrate that today, but who will be there for you tomorrow? I'll be back in a moment.
Join the Savage Nation. Call now, 855-400-SAVAGE, 855-400-7282. Savage.
The Savage Nation is sponsored by Swiss America, the only company I trust with my financial future. Call 800-289-2646 or SwissAmerica.com. Well, we have primaries this evening, which will be the first major test for the left-wing fascists who call themselves democratic socialists, being led by the individual name as Cortez. And those fascists close to her campaign are predicting all four candidates that she's endorsed will win their races tonight. And they have told each other, forget the voters who were Democrats who went over to Trump. Focus only on Muslims and other minorities. And that is why they're rallying Muslims and other minorities against America. Make no mistake about it. This is a civil war that they're brewing. It's not about really going deeper and giving minorities a voice. They already have a voice equal to all others. What they want to do now is divide and conquer. And so we'll have to watch tonight, because if they win, it's a clear sign that the radical, communist, so-called Democrat, socialist playbook not only works outside of the Bronx, but even voters in Trump country might be ready to push the Democrat Party in the nation further to the communist side. But if they lose tonight, it will be a sign that the Cortez gang of the Democrat Party is not strong enough to create a seismic shift in 2018 politics. And it will give those of us on the American side new ammunition to use against the emerging communist wing of the Democrat Party. We have already scoffed at Cortez's intervention in the primaries, and if they lose, we'll be able to discount the entire movement. 4 candidates to watch tonight: Cori Bush, running for U.S. House in Missouri's 1st District; James Thompson, running for U.S. House in Kansas's 4th District; Brent Welder, running for U.S. House in Kansas's 3rd District; Abdul El Sayed, running for governor of Michigan. Wow, how far they've come. The bottom line is, it really is not the do-all or end-all tonight. Even if all 4 candidates win or all 4 candidates lose, the fact is it may not have a big effect on the national movement. Main reason? Because mainstream Democrats like Feinstein and Pelosi would never let the radical left take over the party, being the radicals they already are. The bottom line for them has always been and will always be one thing, and that's money, money, and more money. They want nothing to do with communist politics. They only want the communist methodology, which is to silence their opponents so they can laugh all the way to the bank. This is the Savage Nation. Again, if you're listening to today's show, I had Alex Jones on in the first hour and a half of the show, maybe even longer, because he is in the news. He is being looked at and watched by people around the world who are wondering where this ends and how we have gone from Big Brother to Big Zuckerberg in one generation and where that leads next. How can one man have so much power? How can one company like Google occupy so much of our digital time? Did you see the latest study on that one? That was pretty amazing. Came out today or yesterday, I believe, that Google consumes 1/3 of our digital minds. 1/3. Google, which owns YouTube and Waze, combined account for 34.2% of all time on digital media in June, according to Pivotal research analyst Brian Weiser. And as Google increases its foothold into America's brain, where will this lead? Should one company be allowed to have this much power? You say, well, it's the free market. Don't you conservatives believe in the free market? Well, up to a point we believe in the free market. But when a company becomes the equivalent of a monopoly, we believe in checks and balances, which is why we have antitrust regulation. Because there have always been and there will always be people smarter and luckier than the rest of us. And they will build enterprises that are too big for anyone else to survive in the same marketplace. And so there's antitrust regulation to prevent that. Now, a lot of the antitrust regulation has been destroyed over the years. So, for example, you couldn't own all the newspapers and all the TV stations and all the radio stations in any single market for obvious reasons. Because wiser men and women in previous generations did not want a dictatorship of ideas. They wanted a diversity of ideas. So in every major city, you usually had a morning newspaper and an afternoon newspaper. Well, that eventually dissolved, and all the afternoon newspapers disappeared. Then eventually the newspapers disappeared. Why? Well, the marketplace dictated that. But apparently the marketplace cannot dictate how far Google will go, nor how far Zuckerberg's madness might take him. All I can say is we are living in dangerous times, and dangerous times require a multiplicity of ideas.
Join the Savage Nation. Call now, 855-400-SAVAGE.
Take 1 atom of nitrogen and bond it with 1 atom of oxygen. Boom, you just created nitric oxide, a miracle molecule your own body makes that fuels your cardiovascular health, keeping you vibrant. But as we all age, our bodies need help generating more natural nitric oxide. Super Beets by Human has harnessed the power of nutrient-enriched beets and created a superfood that helps your body make more nitric oxide on its own. The core philosophy of Human is to develop heart-healthy products for your body. 1 teaspoon of Super Beets daily tends to support your cardiovascular health and blood pressure levels, giving you natural energy without the need of a quick caffeine kick or sugar high. We're talking real, healthful, natural energy. So call 800-481-0504 or go to SavageLovesBeets.com and find out how you can get a free 30-day supply of Super Beets and free shipping with your first purchase. I want you to feel the 1 + 1 = boom effect of Super Beets. Just call 800-481-0504 or SavageLovesBeets.com. Remember what I said to you in the opening, which is a very important opening from my point of view anyway, and it's this. The First Amendment was written to protect unpopular, offensive speech. It was not written to protect polite speech. And our way of life, which took so long to evolve, and our way of freedom, which took so long to gain, and so many men died for these freedoms that we could speak, write, read what we wanted. After all this death and all this misery, now we have tyrants arising who would banish us for not adhering to their conceptualization of what is right and what is wrong. It will throw away all of the evolution of Western civilization. How we have gone from Big Brother to Big Zuckerberg in one generation is a product of the cheapness of political office, where those in Congress in so many cases are no more than lobbyists at best, but lower than street prostitutes at worst, where you can buy their favors and their opinion for less money than you could buy a haircut in certain hotels. No, we're not going to throw this away. We're not going to let small men dictate to large men what they can read and what they can say. So today they're banning Alex Jones. In 2008, they banned Michael Savage. Somehow I survived and I'm still here. We're now living in a moment of tyranny and injustice, backed by the tech companies, backed by the government on the left, backed by forces we do not even know, where we risk losing a certain way of life that took centuries to be shaped amongst the Western peoples. As Churchill said, since the dawn of the Christian era, a certain way of life has slowly been shaping itself among the Western peoples, and certain standards of conduct and government have come to be esteemed. After many miseries and prolonged confusion, there arose into the broad light of day the conception of the right of the individual, his right to be consulted in the government of his country, his right to invoke the law even against the state itself. Independent courts of justice were created to affirm and enforce this hard-won custom. This was assured throughout the English-speaking world, and in France by the stern lessons of the Revolution. But today we are confronted by censorship. Censorship at this time not by the government, but by certain companies that are more powerful than any government in the history of the world. Why has the media censored Alex Jones while dropping the story about Dianne Feinstein and the spy who drove her and ran her office for 20 years? I ask these questions because this affects everyone listening to the show, left, right, and center. This is a war for the defense of freedom. As Churchill again, who I quote, said, the lights are going out. The lights are going out quite quickly. They went out in England a while ago. And I do not know how long I will have the liberty to express myself on this program. But while there is freedom for those of us who have the power of a mass audience. We must not waste this power. This power must mean something. We must come together and defend ourselves against the new tyrants. And so let's speak today in truth while the time remains. So what is the truth, and what am I talking about? Let us not forget the biggest story of yesterday, and you will see how it ties into freedom of speech and freedom of the press. Yesterday, it hit the news that Senator Dianne Feinstein of the Senate Intelligence Committee had a driver and office manager now for 20 years working right next to her, who was a Chinese spy. New details emerge about Democrat Senator Feinstein's Chinese spy for 20 years. How do you like that? The Frisco Red Heron is so intelligent that she'd be put in charge of the Senate Intelligence Committee for all these years, and she didn't know she had a spy driving her. This would make for a Monty Hall film. Monty Hall's been dead a long time. I can think of other comedians who are long gone who would do a very good job of this, but because we no longer have any comedians left at all we have are Democrat jesters who work for the Democrat Deep Swamp, you will not be seeing any plays on this on any of the alleged comedians' outlets. But we'll talk about the tragicomedy of the Frisco Red Heron for a few minutes. And let me begin by saying this. In 2006, I published a book that was pure satire entitled The Political Zoo. I'm not trying to sell you this book because it's long out of print. And again, I will tell you that this is all satire. When I took famous political and Hollywood figures at the time and had caricature drawings done of them, and I have them in my archives. She was a good artist, whoever did this. They'll be worth a fortune one day. I'll leave that to my library. Jimmy Carter was known as Marxist Peanut Farm era. It was George W. Bush. If you think it was partisan, you're wrong. George W. Bush was shown as a stinger's bumbless, a stinging bumblebee, you know. So it went across the board. There were other people in there, such as Bono. You know how much I love him, the tiny, well-fed Irish chicken. Or Bono, I call him Gaelic Seamus. Gaelic Seamus. It's Latin binomials I gave everyone. Bush was Stinger's bumbless. Let's see who else was in there, just to give you a background. You probably don't even know some of these people today. Robert Byrd, remember him? Cracker, cornbread, crookus. So it was bipartisan in its satire. Robert Byrd, cracker, cornbread, crookus. It was funny, you know, and his relationship to the Ku Klux Klan. Jimmy Carter, Marxist Peanut Farm era, was funny. People who are long gone here. Hugo Chavez, thick-headed Leninista. It was all, I thought it was very clever, very funny. It was not a huge selling book because it was beyond the average person's grasp. They don't understand satire. Satire requires a special part of the brain that no longer exists. In fact, when Google came along, that part of the brain was obliterated by watching Google or watching the Kardashians. In other words, if you can watch the Kardashians and still have a sense of satire, you're no longer a human being because it's impossible to not understand that they're a collusion of their own selves. So let's go now to the Political Zoo and see what I wrote about Dianne Feinstein, who I affectionately named the Frisco Red Heron, or Mao Zedongus. The Gulf Stream liberals have their own congressional caucus headed by one of their own, Senator Dianne Feinstein of California. As one of the wealthiest birds in this well-appointed aviary, the red heron sits on her gilded political perch, preaching to the lowly, unwashed masses of American mammals, promising to make our meager and meaningless lives better and safer, and aren't we all grateful? The red heron's policies are not surprisingly socialist, marked by odd occasional moments of lucidity. When she isn't playing useful idiot for her husband's Chinese government partners, she still closely follows the Democratic Party flock, breaking with them on the rarest of moments when reason, logic, and pure political self-interest crash down on her like a rickety building in a 9.0 earthquake. The red heron can appear at times to be hawkish and sometimes patriotic, like her performance immediately after 9/11. However, she can easily turn dove, but never a lonesome one, as she is a creature of the flock and will fly wherever the prevailing wind and its flighty ideology take it. Similarly, she can boldly champion her fascist principles and then turn around and make believe she never said any such thing. It's not easy being a useful idiot. It takes discipline, balance, and the brain of a bird. One additional role that she plays is stool pigeon. According to a 1997 investigation by the Los Angeles Times, Feinstein was pushing the Clinton administration for dropping trade restrictions on China at exactly the same time that her husband was increasing his financial investment there. They assured everyone that there was a, quote, strict firewall between her foreign policy positions and his equity positions in China. But this firewall is not the Great Wall of China, seeing as how Dick Blum has repeatedly traveled with Feinstein to China, and her prestige as a U.S. senator has opened many doors for her husband to the highest levels of the communist Chinese government. Since Feinstein entered the Senate, Blum's China portfolio has grown from $500,000 to $2 to $3 billion today. That's in 2000 and what year was that? 2006. $3 billion? That's a pittance. What a coincidence. Maybe he took Hillary's class in cattle futures trading. I go on. The Red Heron took the side of the Chinese in 2001 when one of their fighter pilots intentionally collided with one of our unarmed surveillance planes over international waters. Feinstein told CNN, "I want the Chinese to know that I, as senior senator from California, am deeply sorry about the loss of a Chinese pilot." Squeaking out a tearful apology and saying, "We're sorry," all while the Bush administration was trying to negotiate the release of the American flight crew. Most of you don't even know this. I'll be right back.
Join the Savage Nation. Call now, 855-400-SAVAGE, 855-400-7282. Savage.
Sunspots, brown spots, discoloration, and even red and flame patches? Well, all gone with the brand new Genucel Sunspot Corrector. Here's Ella from Rockford, Illinois. She says, "I have both age and acne spots, and this stuff actually is fading both of them. This serum is worth every penny." Ladies and gentlemen, the Genucel Sunspot Corrector is here. And it's free for you, just for trying Genucel today. It's a must-have for your summer. Finally, why don't you see those stubborn sunspots vanish and those bags and puffiness gone? And for results in less than 12 hours, the Genucel Immediate Effects is also yours free. Light, clean, and effective natural skincare that gives you amazing results and healthier, softer skin day after day. No one does it better than Chamonix. So go to Genucel.com right now or call 800-SKIN-891. Did you get that? Genucel.com. I've watched their results for 20 years. You be the judge. You'll see the magic of Chamonix, or you get 100% of your money back. Call 800-SKIN-891 or go to Genucel.com. That's Genucel.com. Genucel.com. Welcome back to the Savage Nation as we close the show for this remarkable day. I mean, it's a day of talking about free speech. How much more authentic does it get than a conversation about free speech with a man who was just banned by Google and all their platforms and Facebook, huh? Now, look, I know it's the end of a 3-hour show, and I know many of you were hanging on every word when Alex Jones was on, and then the audience normally tapers off anyway, right? So here we go to the end, the last few minutes of the broadcast day. So I imagine, you have to imagine as a talk show host who's left in the audience. So when a show starts, you imagine the theater is full. Think of a huge stadium full of people. Well, at the end, think of a big, big multiplex theater near you, and the theater is empty except for 12 people sitting scattered throughout the movie theater. There's spilled soda on the floor, bubble gum, pizza wrappers, pizza boxes, and there's 12 people left in the theater. That's what I imagine is left right now listening to the Savage Nation. You know what I mean? Like when the show's over and you kind of get up out of your seat, your shoes are going to stick to the floor. We've all understood that. So for the 12 of you or the 120 of you who remain at the end of this show, God knows how many are actually there, I want to begin by saying there's actually good news. I turned on my own website to conclude the show, and look what I found. Instagram reactivates Tommy Robinson's account after removing it in error. Now, many of you don't know who Tommy Robinson is. Let's put it to you this way. He's one of the few Brits who can save Britain. He actually believes in the sovereignty of the nation. He believes in the Union Jack. He believes in their borders, language, and culture, and he dares stand up to the Muslim invaders. And there's no other way to put it. There is no other way to put it. How do you describe a population that comes into a nation and tries to hijack that nation and subvert the nation to their own limited viewpoint? How? Also on michaelsavage.com, I put up Churchill's speech, The Defense of Freedom and Peace. The lights are going out. It's a very important piece, and it was done on the eve of World War II, October 16th, 1938. And I have to read a few lines from Churchill. I loved his work. One of the great men of all time, hated by the Bernie Sanders of his own country at the time. And Churchill wrote on the eve of World War II, I avail myself with relief of the opportunity of speaking to the people of the United States. I do not know how long such liberties will be allowed. The stations of uncensored expression are closing down. The lights are going out. But there is still time for those to whom freedom and parliamentary government means something to consult together. Let me then speak in truth and earnestness while time remains. The American people have, it seems to me, formed a true judgment upon the disaster which has befallen Europe. And he goes on about the invasion of Czechoslovakia. And he says things about the Nazis that I have not seen with regard to Yugoslavia. It was to Czechoslovakia. That is very, very interesting, and I invite you to read about civilization and how it collapsed because those who could have stood up for civilization were too weak to do so. And he talks about what happened to Czechoslovakia and what would happen to other countries unless people stood up for them. And he talks about the subjugation of ordinary people by the Nazis and whether this destruction of the Czechoslovak Republic will bring upon the world a blessing or a curse. And then he says something very intriguing. We must all hope it will bring a blessing, that after we have averted our gaze for a while from the process of subjugation and liquidation, everyone will breathe more freely, that a load will be taken off our chests. We shall be able to say to ourselves, well, that's out of the way anyhow. Now let's get on with our regular daily life. But are these hopes well-founded, or are we merely making the best of what we had not the force and virtue to stop? That is the question that the English-speaking peoples in all their lands must ask themselves today. Is this the end, or is there more to come? And then he asks this question. Can peace, goodwill, and confidence be built upon submission to wrongdoing backed by force? Churchill answers it. One may put this question in the largest form. Has any benefit or progress ever been achieved by the human race by submission to organized and calculated violence? As we look back over the long story of the nations, we must see that, on the contrary, their glory has been founded upon the spirit of resistance to tyranny and injustice, especially when these evils seem to be backed by heavier force. Since the dawn of the Christian era, a certain way of life has slowly been shaping itself among the Western peoples, and certain standards of conduct and government have come to be esteemed. After many miseries and prolonged confusion, there arose into the broad light of day the conception of the right of the individual, his right to be consulted in the government of his country, his right to invoke the law even against the state itself. Independent courts of justice were created to affirm and enforce this hard-won custom. Thus was assured throughout the English-speaking world and in France by the stern lessons of the Revolution. And that is how he spoke about what was happening as the lights were going out in Europe. And as I close my program today, a very important day in broadcast history, the 7th of August, 2018, just remember what we were talking about. We're talking about a few business people with more power than Rockefeller ever had at his peak of the robber baron days, turning off the lights of freedom in America. Stand up and be counted. I'm Michael Savage.
Savage.